Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Do you know what's happened this week? I have got a thing from Qantas, who I worked for forever. Can you believe this? They've actually asked for all the oldies back because they need staff and they need experienced staff.
Wow.
So they've actually got, and I kind of like that they really respect people of all age. So they've actually put it out there. It's different conditions and I don't know how many people will actually take it. But to have that opportunity back to be given to you, it's just quite extraordinary. The company like Qantas.
That's remarkable.
And so here we are. It doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you can, pass your medical and you're still, I think there's like a little sort of interview process, but basically they want you back.
Wow.
So I have to decide.
What does that tell you about Qantas, that they're seriously lacking staff?
Lacking staff, totally.
And it takes time to train.
It
too,
does.
doesn't it?
But it's also, I think they value experience. So you get sort of someone who might have been working for 6 months or 12 months and they're younger, and they bring their own values, but also I love it that they actually value life experience. So that's what the
podcast's all about.
Yeah. And so
life
just on that subject of aging and aging well, how's that?
Incredible.
Whether we take it back or not,
what
I
percentage
don't know.
of the girls that you flew with are taking it up?
The decision hasn't been. I think in my training class, there's only 2 people who are still back flying now. So that's majority of everyone's really left because with the pandemic, like myself, I was still flying and I flew for 34 years. That was the end of it.
You're the only person I know who can open a really good champagne.
But it was really the pandemic that sort of ended it. And then I had the opportunity, I could have stayed on, but I was thinking the world's a different place and they offered a redundancy package. And most people of my age and stage never thought would get an opportunity to come back again. Anyhow, we thought, well, this is a good opportunity to leave with a bit of a handshake and never look back. And so for me,
and you haven't.
I've never looked back, but it's interesting when you go, can you change your mind? Can you do this? So it's really put it out there and you're going, so all of us have gone, well, you know what? We might just go, let's put in the application and we can always say no.
So how many of your girls that you flew with are actually putting the application
I don't know how many will actually take it, but I think most people in our core group, we've got that attitude of going, well,
it's the year of yes.
It's the year of yes.
Wow.
Let's just see. And also, let's see also, we've gone back to see whether they can offer part-time, whether they can offer all these different things.
Say yes and then
we'll sort it out. So that's been my week. So it's been a big week of catching up with people who I hadn't seen for a long time.
Huge.
Big discussions, big sort of video calls and talking about that. But that's
and listeners, we're talking about women in their late 50s and 60s now that Qantas are going back to. And I think that that's what we're all about. It's like, this is the new beginning. This is not the ending.
Yes.
So everyone wake up and jump for joy because this is the most exciting time of your life.
Yeah. And who knows when things are going to come at you, an opportunity that you think the door is closed forever and out of the blue in life.
So true.
Things are going to happen.
Go the universe.
Yeah. And what about you, Di? You've come back from Singers, and how's that been?
Yeah, that was just amazing.
How's it been since you've been back?
Something about getting on a plane, isn't it? I mean, I could have gone to the moon. It's like getting on a plane, even though you're squashed up the back. It's like, and you land and you somewhere, wherever that may be, it's just fresh eyes over somewhere where you're switching off from your normal environment and your routine. We're all, habitual creatures. And I'm landing. I could have gone for 24 hours and come back. Landing back at Sydney Airport, and you just go, I live in the best city in the world. I'm more gratitude. I'm blessed and refreshed. I'm doing a little bit of travelling this year. We are. Oh no,
travelling and
can't
parties.
keep the good down for long.
And who did we meet at parties?
It's funny that our next guest, Leanne.
Perfect
Nicol.
segue.
I'd have to honestly say we met
at
Leanne
a party.
At a party, and we won't go any further than
It was a
I
damn
remember
good party.
sitting next to you,
Amazing
Leanne,
party.
and I was so captivated by this woman who's so vivacious, so full of life, who was telling me stories about her life, and I was so consumed and lost in her bravado that Nicola went, "This is Leanne, and we have to interview her." The podcasts need to hear from Leanne, and Nicola knew Leanne, just went, absolutely. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here. And the whole concept of just sharing stories and what were you talking before around the pandemic? And I think, out of that, there is extraordinary creativity. And, it's with Qantas, but I think it's reshaped so many things and made us think about things differently. And I think that potentially it makes you think about, what do I want to do in life? When you couldn't do anything or you could do very little, it's okay, well, what's possible? And really with a good attitude, I think we live in a place where a lot is possible. And there's always wriggle room anyway, I think,
That's a really positive approach to
So tell us about yourself. What are you doing at the moment? Are you a principal or you're in education? Or
So I work in education.
Yes.
And while, yes, I have been a principal in 4 different places in 2 different states internationally, I have a job at the moment which I'm really passionate about, and it's around working with our school leaders of whatever stage in leadership they're at. So whether they're just early career people who are full of enthusiasm and drive and want to climb that ladder, or whether they're people who are incredibly experienced and bring a great deal of wisdom. It doesn't matter what industry you work in. Life is all about learning, and learning is just another word for change, to be honest. And so education is all about
a word for change.
That's right. This on the video.
It's a quote. That is.
It's beautiful.
I think I've
Well,
actually heard that.
Well, I think if I think about what learning is, like, my background is primary teaching. So, when you're working with little ones, you're working to expand their world and to change perhaps some perceptions they've got, or alter those, or direct them, or frame them, but just to help them grow as human beings, not just from the neck up, but in that fulsome way. And I think one of the things for me, which is really an important part of who I am and what I bring to everything, I work in Catholic education. So, that notion of spirituality is a terribly important part, that you really see who the person is. I'm not to say that my state colleagues don't, but we actually have a mandate to do that. So that whole notion of it being holistic, and that we're not just on about teaching kids to read and write. So I'm working with our leaders.
Well-rounded, isn't it?
And that's the way education should be. Really the full, all the spokes in the wheel. Really,
I'm sure that none of us want to harp on the pandemic, but that's our starting point for today's conversation. And I think our educators, I am so proud of our profession, as I'm sure the medical profession are, and those healthcare professionals and many other service industries who just had to keep going.
Absolutely.
And pivot, do it differently, small businesses, all of that creativity and the ability to do that and keep going. The reality is now that a lot of our leaders and our staff are exhausted. And so
Can I cut in there and just say something I'm very aware of through the media is, sadly, a lot of people blame teachers for things that are happening to their children. In other words, I believe there's a lot of parents who are not taking ownership of what's happening with their children, and they're blaming either A, the education system, or B, the teachers. And that's a huge responsibility for these teachers to take on, let alone the anxiety and the stress.
Yeah. I think that's reflective of probably something that's more pervasive in our society, in that if something goes wrong, somebody has to be to blame.
Correct.
So when our parents do that, it's about, for me, and I know for our principals, it's about really listening to them and just acknowledging and saying, I can see you're angry. And I can see it, and I take it seriously. And right now, you're the most important person that I've got to listen to. And so come in, I want to hear what you've got to say.
What a great response.
Yeah, and giving them the time, and then they, because, people are very passionate about their children. They care about them a lot. So most of us as parents plan for our children's lives to go very smoothly. And so when things don't go smoothly, that can be very frustrating and so forth. So
What about the burnout rate for teachers at the moment?
Oh, massive.
Yeah.
Massive. And when you were talking before, Nicola,
Yes.
about, you know, our older teachers, I mean, we can't get teachers.
Are they trying to bring them back too? Is there
Absolute-
incentives?
yeah.
for
There you
that?
go.
1,000%. And that's fantastic
So for the
because
ageing population, there's really new opportunities.
1,000%. And, you know, I think age is a state of mind.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think
What
it's
is
an
it?
attitude.
I don't even
Yeah.
believe it is but a number. It's so true.
So
It's
that's
how
what it is
feel.
to you.
Yeah.
You know,
Attitude.
I remember my son wrote on the birthday card for both my parents because they were both born the same year, and we had a joint 80th birthday party
Oh,
for them.
wonderful.
And I remember my son wrote on the card, research has shown that the more birthdays you have, the longer you live.
That's a great one.
Just
I've
a
not
quick,
heard
you
that.
know,
What a clever
well, you know,
boy.
what a clever boy.
Amazing.
But you know, the thing is,
That's a good quote.
how exciting! How exciting! You know, I just think life is exciting, and you know,
You're exciting me.
You're
Just
excited.
sitting
And
there.
have you always
You're
had this
wonderful.
attitude? Is this grown more with age, or you're sort of one of the
Well,
sort of like positive people?
I'm a
from
positive
young-
person.
Love it.
I am a positive person. I inherited that absolutely 100% from my mother.
Wow.
And Mum's view was, you know, meeting things with curiosity and going, well, what's this about? I was Mum passed away last year at 93. Had a beautiful, peaceful, calm, painless death that we would all wish for, and was declining with dementia. And she had this extraordinary acceptance about that. She wasn't angry about it, but it was based on her attitude all through life. And we would often get comments about Mum and about what a delight she was to care for, because she was happy and she was positive.
Tell me about a mum growing up, though. Like I remember having a little conversation with you about mum being a great storyteller.
She was. That's where I got that from
and,
too.
and I think personally, that's one of my bandwagons in life. I think there's not enough, because storytelling to me is part of imagination, and I think that's really lacking in our society. So tell me about Mum growing up, and just paint the picture of Mum telling a story. Like, are we talking fiction? Like, what sort of stories did Mum tell? Because
Mum was very
she's
good
one
at
of a kind.
interweaving fact and fiction.
I love her. I love her. Yeah, she is, isn't she? Oh, a little bit of sizzle here and there.
And a
my
beautiful,
God, Jill.
and a beautiful bit of embellishment. You know that, and
Yes.
as the stories gathered more momentum and
Get
people
bigger
were
and bigger.
interested, they gathered more creativity as well. So that was always part of the fun, to be honest.
Yes.
What I really remember, I've got a very vivid memory as a child. So I have 3 older brothers and myself, and we are all born within 7 years of each other.
Wow.
And then there's an 8-year gap, and then I have a sister. What I remember in this big, messy, big family, baby crying in the background and sitting at the dining table, and everybody was expected to speak. And you had to, like there was very little tolerance if you didn't speak and tell your story of the day without...
It's like music to my ears.
Yeah, there was no room for it to be boring. So whatever,
I love that.
How was
Go
school?
to your room. That was
That's
a
why
boring
we hit it
story.
off.
Oh, no, somebody would just, I've got 3 older brothers. People would just tease you and speak over the top of you, and it'd be loud and whatever.
Love that.
And my parents would always make sure that there was a space for everybody. There was always room to hear people's stories and to comment and to play back and ask about their days. They were always interested. They modelled for us the importance of being interested in others and listening to the story of others, but as well as that, being interesting.
Yes, that has to, enter into the room.
That was
Something
probably
to the
that was probably more. Yeah, you bring something to it,
Wow.
and whatever the people bring, that's their gift to the world, and that's their gift. And
Mum had many, many gifts with her stories.
Oh yeah, like Mum. Yeah,
Layer
that's
upon
right.
layer.
And I read somewhere that our life is like a piece of art, a painting. That we're constantly, not painting new ones, but we're constantly layering. And this is what we are. That's our presence to the world. So that when we come into the world, like you've got your painting, but, we can't always see all the layers that sit behind everyone's.
Yes.
And I think what my parents absolutely gave me a sense of is understand that what you can see on the surface is not a reflection
So
on
there's
the
a story
depth of
behind
everyone's
that.
got a story
Wow.
and everyone's got
love
depth.
There's more to
parents.
contribute
everyone's-
too.
and that's
Keep
right.
on
How
adding
beautiful.
that layer
Yeah.
in pesto
Yeah.
on
And-
that piece of art.
Yeah, and I think that's what that's what makes life fantastic.
Aren't
Yeah,
you lucky you had
yeah.
your mum till she was, what, 93?
93.
Yeah, incredible.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
And a
Yeah.
little cheers to her, because it's
She
not that
sounded-
long since you, what was your mum's name?
Cecily.
Cecily,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Cecily.
To Cecily.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
really to cheers, and to all our
Cheers
mums,
to
and
Cecily.
mums,
And
and
all the
friendship,
mums.
And to
friendship
motherhood.
and new
Yeah.
friendship. And so with your family, you've got 2 beautiful children yourself.
And
Yeah.
a stepson.
And a stepson as well. So
Yes.
were you married, and then when did that?
Married,
end
then
his-
not, and then married again.
Okay,
Yes.
so when did it not?
Married, then not,
How
then
long were
married
you
again. There's a
married
song in
first
that.
time?
Yeah, it is.
Married and not married again. Married and not
Well,
married
married
again.
You know,
again.
we could just call those chapters of the book of
Yeah, I love
stories,
that.
couldn't
So
we?
that was
Yeah.
the first marriage chapter of.
Yeah.
So the first
that
marriage
started and the
chapter
book
was
closed on
yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah. So the first chapter.
And you were teaching then?
No, I was at
primary
uni.
school,
Yeah, I was
or-
at uni.
Okay, so it was
But
the
I
early
think
days,
I'd
yeah.
started. Yes, I had started
Yeah.
teaching when we got married, and
Right.
then had 2 lovely kids, and then that
Came to an end.
that came to an end, which was a really big surprise to me, and that was my first
How long were you married for?
10 years. I remember we had our 10th anniversary,
Okay.
I do,
Wow.
but I can't remember if we made
That's
it
a
to the
milestone.
11th.
And
So
with
that-
young children, it
Oh
wouldn't
my
have been
God.
easy.
A nightmare.
What was it?
It was-
difficult?
yeah,
With young children.
Yeah, the children were 2 and 4.
Oh boy.
And moving forward from that, like you were a single mum for how long? With
10 years. So
with-
I was married
oh,
about 10 years.
years.
I was
Wow.
a single mum for 10 years.
10 years, and you were working with 2. You're a
Yeah.
single mum
Yeah.
working with
Yeah.
2 children. What were your coping skills, and did you have a support network?
I had great support. I firmly believe it takes a whole village. I
love that
moved
line.
to Sydney.
Love that.
Yeah, I moved. So I had been living in Brisbane. So the kids were both born in Brisbane. We moved there because of my first husband's work. When I was looking down my future, I thought I want my children to have something that's really stable. And I know that my parents, and at the time my brother, was living in Sydney, and I thought I want my kids to be around this stability.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so I moved back to Sydney.
Right.
So that was a year after.
Started again, like back to Sydney.
It was an easy
yeah,
start
I
again
get that.
in a way, because I
And
had
it's close to
Sydney
Cecily.
town.
Yeah.
I lived with them.
Oh, there you go.
really?
Very
The kids
close.
and I
Somewhere
lived
in
with
town,
them.
right? Everyone.
Yeah.
Mum,
So Northern
mum and
Beaches.
dad,
Mum and dad.
the kids, you.
Yeah.
How lovely. So that was
That
must
was
have made
beautiful.
life
My
easier.
children, like I actually,
Yeah,
really,
truly.
yeah, I said it in Mum's eulogy. When I was talking about it, I talked about Mum and Dad as like really they co-parented with me for those
Wow,
time,
how
and my
fortunate.
children have had the benefit of just an extraordinary relationship with both my parents.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when
10
could you,
years
When could you
too.
then start to think of yourself, and
Yes.
then also
Yeah.
time for you to have a bit of fun,
Yeah.
and you to start the dating
How did you
game?
go about that?
It was sort of, there's a story
Yeah.
or two. When I moved to Sydney, and I was in my early 30s, so I still had some single girlfriends. And so, it was never hard to go out. And I lived for quite a long time between these two worlds of this being single and having these single friends that you could go and do that sort of thing, but also having married friends who had kids and
Of course.
and created a different
leg
social
in each
network.
camp, so to
yeah,
speak.
Babysitters.
Yeah.
Did you?
Which that's
well, I had my mum, and this is something I am really passionate about. You need to have a village, and you need to have more than one backup plan when you're looking after your kids. Not only is it good for your kids, but it's good for you. I had that. I actually had to have it from day one, because the day I moved to Sydney, my parents both told me that, they had to, in the next couple of weeks, go in and have separately surgery. And then my sister had also told them that she was moving back to Sydney because she was pregnant and unmarried. So, the good Catholic family.
I
that
love
was,
that. It all
you know,
happened at
Poor
once.
parents
was
who
like,
thought they were having
and
their
I'm
freedom.
Wonder they're going into hospital.
so from day one.
They weren't. They were in a
Yeah.
hotel down the road. It's like, can't go.
So
I
from
love
day
it.
one, I had to just put in place Plan B. As time got on, and I suppose some of those single friends found partners or whatever.
Right.
I then thought, okay, I'm going to just put myself out there
Go,
because
go.
I've got a big network here,
Yeah.
and I can't see anybody that's on the potential of the network that I've already got.
Yes.
So I did things such as, in those days it was called Dinner for Six, and it was a
See, I love this.
Dinner for six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone just set this up for
Dinner
people,
parties.
for single people.
So
Well,
tell us about that.
Yeah.
So Dinner for Six, it was a company run by this very lovely lady, and I remember going over to her house, and she interviewed and, just to find out a little bit about it. And then she, that's lovely. And at some stage there must have been some money that exchanged hands, because otherwise how would she create?
Yeah, of
and
course.
Then she would ring up from time to time, probably about once every month or 6 weeks, and she'd say, "Now, Leanne, I'd like to invite you to a dinner party," which was hilarious because really it was a dating agency.
Wow.
And there's going to be 3 lovely gentlemen, and their names are Tom, Dick and Harry. And then the other 2 ladies, I think you'll really enjoy their company because their names are Di and Nicola. And the restaurant is at such and such, and it's booked under the name. It's booked under the name of whatever. And so then you'd go, you'd just have a fun time. And it was a really good thing for me to do because being busy,
yes,
I was also the assistant principal at the time of the school where my children were at. So my life was like a fishbowl.
Wow.
So doing things like dinner for 6 put me completely out of that fishbowl that I was living in.
So needed.
And I had to just be Leanne. I couldn't be Leanne the mother or Leanne the assistant principal or Leanne who teaches your child or
hello, Leanne,
all my
here
children's
I am,
friends.
over here.
Yeah,
Wow.
and so I had to do that. So that was sort of
how many
segue.
hats did you have to take off to go to dinner? Like,
Yeah.
really?
And what did you wear to dinner?
Oh,
What was
yeah.
your outfit?
Lingerie, darling. Get straight to the
I
point.
reckon you would have got a couple of sexy bras or something, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I love it. See?
course.
The hats are
see?
throwing off.
Yeah,
That's what dating does.
You can leave your hat on.
And some of those dinner parties were more fun than others, as you can imagine.
I bet.
Some of them
Yeah.
were
Those
like
must have been a
deathly
yawn,
boring.
were they?
Yeah.
And then from the dinner party, you went into another form of
Then
dating. which
online
was-
dating.
Hello.
Is that what it's called? Yeah, like websites, because now, of
yes.
course, everybody uses apps. But
and you were on RSVP, am I
RSVP.
right?
So was that one of
Okay.
the first ones?
I think so,
Well,
yeah.
I
We've
think-
got an agreement
Yeah,
over here from the
exactly.
producer. That's a
Exactly.
definite.
Right, yeah,
I think she's been.
I wasn't in the market before then, so I
Gorgeous,
don't
Sam.
sort of
Yes,
know.
yeah.
But yeah, so
So can I ask, as a matter of interest,
Yes.
how many dates did we do with RSVP?
Oh, I'm
Come
so
on.
glad you
Yes.
asked that question. That
I mean,
is
1,
listen,
2, 3,
No.
4.
So I'm going to go backwards a little bit, and I'm
love
going to
this,
say
yeah.
I met my first husband like almost straight away when I'd left school, and I was at boarding school before that. So the opportunity
Okay.
for dating was very limited.
Right.
So I probably might have gone on maybe 5 dates before I met my first
Got it.
husband. Okay, so there's the playing field.
Yeah.
Just before I met my
love
current
it.
husband,
Yeah, yeah.
and this was
I love that, my
hilarious.
current.
Yes, yes, current.
In my present life husband.
Yes,
So
in
just
present.
before that, I remember saying to one of the girls that I worked with, "Oh my God, I'm exhausted. I reckon I've been on 100 first dates."
Wow.
100 first.
And do you
love
know?
this.
And she's going, "Leanne, you couldn't have." And I said, "Yeah, I have. I reckon I have
Wait a
been.
minute.
I'm the first date queen."
Like,
First,
I
but
love
so,
this.
So tell me, after the first date, you wouldn't give them a
love
second
this.
chance after
She
that?
hit
It's
the
either
ground
yes
running.
or no. Like,
Nicola.
oh,
Yeah.
there's multiple. How
So
did
give
you
us some examples.
Yeah.
So,
of
you know,
these.
this is early 2000s. So, you
Yeah.
know, this is my strategy.
Yeah, yeah.
This was
Love
my
a strategy.
Of course.
Principle.
Yeah.
Very
And this, you know, this
principled.
one's
Totally.
just this one's
Yeah.
single, so you know your
I
ears
know,
are
but
hot.
well,
Well,
These
listen,
are
I'll
like
give you my
flapping here.
strategy. and look,
Two of them.
you can take it or leave it. And, you know, anybody out there, to all of those 99 other gentlemen, I hope it doesn't sound disrespectful because I actually, my criteria for the date was I'd get home and go, was that worth getting out of my jammies for? You know, or would it have been better to stay in your
That's
jammies
great.
and stay and watch television with the kids? So, you know, of those, they
Love that.
look,
That's a good
the
one.
vast majority of them were worth getting out of my jammies for.
And would you go for coffee? Would you go for
No.
dinner? Would you have a glass of vino?
Nicola.
Oh,
I had a plan.
where are we heading,
I
Leanne?
had a plan.
Is it a bit
You
below
know,
the
this
belt?
is the early 2000s, and, you know, I'm 62. Yes, I would like to think of myself, there's aspects of a modern woman, but I also still have some of those qualities that, you know, and the gentlemen of that age, that they go out and they pay for dinner and so
no,
forth.
not really.
But I would still offer because I wouldn't like to. So
No,
this
of
is
course
my
not.
strategy.
Yes.
First of all, you connect on, you know,
Yeah,
and then you
online.
used to
You
send
like them.
emails.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, I just need to meet you. I'm sorry. I just, like,
Yeah.
after very quickly, I was happy
Yeah.
to exchange a mobile phone number And then
Looking forward to a prawn cutlet tonight.
Yes. Well, and then they'd say, would you like to go for dinner? And so you go, lovely. I've been to every single restaurant, let me tell you.
I bet.
In Crow's Nest at least once on a first
did
date.
you make it special to the guy?
They must have had a special table
But she
for
says
you.
to the guy,
No.
I've never been to that one. And the guy goes, hi, Leanne, welcome back.
Like a frequent flyer.
Just like, what is it?
But tell us about some of those dates,
Oh
some
my God.
interesting ones that the listeners would love to hear about, including
Okay.
us.
Good and bad and indifferent.
Okay, so I would know before the entree came.
Right.
And mostly I could just sit and enjoy dinner, but there were a couple of times when I just thought, holy moly, I wish I hadn't ordered an entree.
I wish I was home in my jammies.
Yeah, because and
Right.
then my girlfriends would give them nicknames. Like that was Mr. Like somebody said, how was that? And I'd say, that guy was so beige. Lovely,
Yes.
very, very
Yes.
nice.
Yeah, delightful.
But so beige.
Not for you,
And
yeah.
No, that's
No.
right. So my personal favourite, who I didn't actually go on a date with, but connected up on RSVP,
Yeah.
and a photo that was just like drop dead good looking.
Oh.
And then he sent this email that was like a literary piece of work. And I thought, okay, I don't know whether to be impressed or just think, what a weirdo. Because I thought, I am fussy. I like the spelling to be correct. I'm a teacher.
Yes,
like,
it's true.
please use correct grammar and
On
spell
your-
things
on
correctly
your
because
ears, you spelled that wrong.
I
I love
yeah.
it.
So this guy was like, oh my God, like he can write so well. This is just, so I Googled him and he's written a book, got that he started his career as a private detective.
Okay.
And his speciality was when, dealing with if you thought that your partner was having an affair and he'd, sneak around and catch somebody in the act. So I know
So
very
you've
good.
Googled him and you found
And then
out.
I found that he had lived in New York and, on the east side. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's nice. I could live on the east side of New York.
You
That's
see your future
okay.
ahead of you.
Yeah. And he was like, he used to organise security for all the, A-list stars. And then I was talking to a girlfriend of mine and I was telling her about, she said, oh my God, his kids used to go to my school. And then she told the story that the reason he left Australia was because the rumour was he'd ordered a hit on his ex-wife.
No.
And
So there was
so,
never a
like,
first date.
Wow. Obviously, you're happily married now, but
Yeah.
How
give me
did you
another
guys
one.
meet?
Give me
On
just quickly,
RSVP.
Is there any more
Okay.
dating stories, though? Is there any more juicy
Okay, well, we'll
ones?
throw one more in.
I think the process is probably interesting because, I'm big on the wisdom of the girls. So I was a principal, and so the secretary and the assistant principal, they were part of my team to help discern which ones.
Oh, this
so
is brilliant.
I
You
used to
girlfriends.
print out.
Love
Yeah, we used to
this.
do that.
Yeah,
But what's
of
fun?
course. So I'd print out the
Oh, you weren't the
bios.
boring
She's
principal,
the
were
principal.
you?
I love this.
I'd print out the
Because they love it
bios
too.
Yeah.
and I'd take them to work and I'd share them with the assistant principal, my friend Steph, who I've known for ages, and then the two secretaries, and they used to take it incredibly seriously. They would pour
Like a
over
deck of
these
cards.
things. They would
Living
and
their
my
lives through you.
Yeah, and my friend Steph, she walked into my office and she handed me Richard, who's my current husband,
stop.
his bio, and she said, I like this one.
You've got to be kidding me.
And I said, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
Steph, she claims
Yeah.
responsibility
Of course.
for Richard and
How
I.
much do you pay her a week?
Yeah.
All right.
But
Love it.
Richard rang and Richard says to me over the phone, and we're having chatting, and he said, would you like to go out on Saturday night? I said, love to go out on Saturday night. That sounds nice. He said, how about we go to a restaurant in Crow's Nest? To which my response was,
I've never been to Crow's Nest.
it's very hard to park in Crow's Nest
Oh,
on a
that's a
Saturday
goodie.
night. Well,
See,
it
the
was.
first person's honest with all the others.
It
are
is.
all right.
I didn't want to
Love
get
that.
axe murdered at walking back to my car after the day.
That's brilliant.
So he says, but I live in Crow's Nest. You can park in my visitor's car park. I'm thinking, I've still got to
damn,
go
I
to
couldn't
Crow's
escape
Nest.
Crow's Nest
Anyway,
restaurant.
so he said, gave me his phone number, and he said, just ring me when you're getting close and I'll come down and let you in. So I did that. And I pulled into the driveway and, I recognised his sort of outline from the photo. And as I was looking in the rear vision mirror, I thought, oh my God, he's actually quite cute.
Oh, I love this.
And then I, put my window down and he smiled. And I I had that whole,
Wow.
like, I got all jelly legs.
It's the animal
Isn't
instinct,
it?
isn't
I
it?
got all jelly
Yeah.
legs.
Wow.
And I parked and...
The principal.
Yeah,
Rush the
he
car.
unnerved me. So this is after the person who had been on 99 first dates.
Oh,
Hold
that
on, you're
point.
telling me this is like at the other side of 100, Richard. Richard
Oh,
wasn't
no.
amongst the pack.
No,
but
he's
it was
the
on.
end.
He's
I haven't
the
been on
end.
any dates except
No,
for
of
Richard
course.
since.
So this is a
No,
lucky
but
last.
that's amazing. This is
Yeah,
great.
and he unnerved me, and I have never been unnerved before. And but it like he didn't have to do anything other than just be.
Presence.
He also got all sweaty and whatever. He says he wasn't well, but I think he was
that's
just
a goodie.
taken with my
Yes.
you know,
Charm and, yes.
and just my
You
hustle.
name it.
But you
Have it
know,
all.
yeah. Look,
Literally
it was
love at first sight.
it
Really.
was Nicola,
Wow, for
and I
both
had
of
never,
you.
and I was 44,
Oh,
and
there
I
you
had
go.
never ever experienced that ever. Ever.
Shows
How
it can happen at
beautiful.
any age
How
and any
beautiful.
stage.
Yeah.
And did you roll quickly from there? Was it then?
What, in the bed? What do you mean?
Well, actually,
She was out of pajamas. There was no pajamas.
Oh, my
I definitely
God.
did not have pajamas.
I
we
love
did.
it.
Yeah, look,
No
we did.
PJs, it was the
yeah.
negligee now.
Yeah, we did.
Wow,
Yeah, we
Leanne.
did. It was
How
pretty
lovely.
quick, and you know that was
quick.
not necessarily wise in hindsight. You know, we had kids to consider, and
Yes,
we
so
didn't.
how did you deal with that, combining the family together?
Oh, that was
family.
That was
Like-
singly the most difficult thing.
right.
That was more difficult than being a single parent.
Right.
It was
blended families. I think it's
Yeah,
always the case,
and I
isn't
think-
it? Really?
yeah,
and
and-
initially,
There's challenges.
Yeah,
and-
exactly.
And,
yeah.
JJ was little. He was 5, and my kids were young teenagers.
Not
Richard and I did not do that blend well. I'm going to say we did not do that
Well,
blend
it's a new
well.
experience for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, kids and
It's-
you included.
I have very few regrets in life because I think life is all about learning. But that hurt. It hurt my children. It damaged me, and I had to repair me as well.
Wow.
And
How did you repair you?
Yeah.
I stopped drinking.
Wow. Oh, God.
Because
I've got
the-
so many whales. Have you heard how many whales I've said with
I know.
Leanne? I think I've said 70,
We could talk
probably
to
100.
you,
Wow for
honestly,
every date.
For every,
Yeah.
So now
100
that's
days.
interesting.
Because the way I coped with it, I didn't know. This was like
you.
everything that I had ever wanted to do was just raise my kids with love and security. But at the same time, I also knew that I didn't want them to grow up and feel that they had to just like, oh, God, we better go over to mum because she's on her own, you know?
Look
Right.
after
And
you.
so,
Yes.
and because this feeling for Richard was so strong, I also knew that I couldn't ignore it. And so how did I deal with
Very
that?
true,
I
isn't
drank wine. That's how I dealt with it.
that's what
I
was gonna
drank
say. I
a lot
understand.
of wine.
I understand. It's
And
your
that-
coping mechanism.
That
Okay,
was
we fine. I'll have a
So
I
drink.
many
numbed it.
listeners here
Yeah.
now
Yep.
have coping mechanisms.
Didn't want to
that way.
confront it. It was too hard. I'll have a drink and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and it
And
wasn't.
yet,
and that made
yeah,
it worse.
yeah.
All that did was make it worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact,
Pushing it down.
You know, it might not make it worse for other people, but it did for me.
Right.
And it was a slow burn. I don't know if that's the right expression, but you know, over 10 years, there was a line that was crossed between drinking being healthy and unhealthy.
Okay.
And I
I admire you for acknowledging that and sharing that too.
Yeah.
I really
And witnessing
do.
in her
and
child.
witnessing it too.
Yeah.
And how
That
long
was
ago
the
was
turning
that
point.
when you actually
That-
stopped that? And
well, that was after Richard and I were married. So we got married in 2009, and I stopped drinking in 2012.
Wow.
So that's 11 years.
11 years ago.
I
Yay.
Yeah,
Incredible.
so-
So bright.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it seems to be, it was funny, at the party we're coming back in sort of full
Yes.
circle where we met up, you
Yep.
know, your son was there, and it seemed like that everyone was all getting on so well.
Yeah.
So it seems
Nicola,
like
they
now
did.
Moving
it's
forward,
all
and
moving
you've got an
1,000%.
amazing relationship
I-
with,
yeah.
your,
Yes.
Yeah.
with your children.
Yep, and
Yeah.
I have
and you
good-
took stock of where you were at
And
you made
ownership
major
of it.
change.
Yep.
And only you will be,
Yeah.
you know, your health and everything
Yeah.
else down the road.
But you know, I think that's the
Love it.
thing. You know, what I've had to learn other ways to process life, the ups and downs of life. And that's great because I have skills and I have strategies. That doesn't mean that there are times I don't get a bit overwhelmed because I do.
human.
Yeah.
Did you replace drinking for something else? Did you go to yoga, or did you do something?
It's about just getting balanced. I mean, my life was out of balance, not just in terms of, you know, how much wine I was drinking, but it was out of balance in terms of my drinking, my world got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and
It's
smaller.
interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so my world ended up being my lounge room and my glass of wine and my office at work. and that was my world.
Yeah.
And so not drinking, I actively opened my world, and I'm a very social person.
Isn't that interesting? You think the reverse.
Yeah.
Because it's,
That's
you know.
wonderful.
Well,
But I'll tell you what, Leanne, you've got just bundles of fantastic attitude. You've just got such a zest for life.
Oh, it's worth
And
bottling.
if we can go
I'd
back,
make
because
a
I mean, I
fortune.
could talk to you forever.
Oh, lovely,
thank you.
Leanne.
So go back.
We're going to go to our signature questions.
Oh, yes.
And so sort of like turning back the clock now,
Yes,
you're
which ones are we
62, but you're
gonna go
going
to?
back to, what would you say advice you give to your 20-year-old self? Leanne
oh,
of
wow.
20.
Advice to the 20-year-old self.
It's a good one, that one. I love that one.
That's a really...
It's one you've
Okay.
got to, you know, think of. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
just reflect on.
The advice to my 20-year-old self, it would be listen to that little inner voice within, because that's the place of truth and wisdom about who you really are.
Your soul.
I think it's your
It's
soul,
cry.
and
Yeah.
it's your
It's
spirit,
authentic
and
self.
it's your inner truth.
Yep.
I
Yep.
totally agree.
And as we grow
And
older,
the
Never
layers,
wrong, is
don't
it?
we?
It's
Always put
that
the
inner
layers
thing
on.
That's what I was-
know.
Someone
Yeah.
once said we put post-it notes on our soul, and
Yeah.
life's about eventually ripping
Yeah.
those off to your purity.
Yes,
That's what I love
exactly.
it.
They're
Yeah.
most beautiful words.
No,
Yeah.
no, I love that.
So I didn't know.
That's a really special answer.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Truly.
really, it
Yeah.
really makes me really
Yeah.
cry. It's
Yeah.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think
And-
everyone can
yeah.
resonate with that inner voice of yourself. Like there, it's like never wrong. It's like your gut instinct.
true.
It's your
Is
gut
that-
just
that's what
true
it
to
is.
yourself.
It's a gut instinct
there,
that we all
and
push
so
aside.
easy to push it aside.
Next question. If you had a choice of anybody in the world to meet
Yeah.
at the back fence,
Yeah.
God love you, who would that be and why?
Okay, so I know, I had a bit of a heads
I
up
love-
about
did
that
you-
question.
did you see
There's
Leanne?
a bit of a
Did you
sparkle
see
in the eye
Leanne's face
there.
then?
I'm waiting
That
for
was
this
incredible.
one.
Okay.
I love seeing your face
I
there.
guess.
I would
Really?
love to meet and have over the back fence Brené Brown.
Oh,
hello.
Can I come to
All of us.
yay.
Okay, we can live in
I
a
reckon
a
Sound producer
a
could be
big
in it
sort
too.
That would be
Like-
fun.
Oh
Yeah,
my God!
great.
Because I think she's just grounded. She exudes wisdom, and for me, I think it's also she feeds my sort of mental side, where I go, yes, you've actually researched this. It's logical. It's all of that,
Left
but
brain,
it's
right
also,
brain.
but
Love
it's
it.
an integration of all of that. She is all about like your feelings and the logic and the spiritual and all of that. That it's all because I think part of the reason that I chose alcohol was because I was all in bits, you know, and so, you know, the last 12 years have been about not only putting the bits in place, but actually about getting them all to, like cogs, and all
Yes.
working together, that you turn...
Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a great
We're
opportunity.
a work
It's a
in
great
progress till we
opportunity
die.
It is.
from the party
Yeah, totally.
when
Yeah.
you first met Leanne.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, our
We love
friendship's all been
Leanne.
in flow.
Yes.
But Leanne, thank you so much
Oh,
for joining
thank
us
you.
today.
Yes, it
and really,
has.
we could do more, and we might
Love
have you
you.
back again too, because you know,
Yes,
really
please.
wise words of wisdom from you, and you
Yes.
spoke from the heart, and we adore you. So
We do. Well, guys, we look forward to joining us at the back fence next Monday.
yeah, so tell your friends, rate and review. How many stars do we want, Didi?
25, and even though it only says
I think
4.
I think it says 4 or 5 stars. Because really, I'm just learning, but that's really the only way that community
Spread the
grows and
word.
spread the word.
Yeah,
So share
it's
the
true.
potty to friends, and
That's what it's all about.
thank
to
you for
share it.
listening.
And look forward to chatting with you on Monday. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Bye bye.